Okay, here we have various methods that we can use with JSON that we'll use for our JSON project and some tips that will help you. So as we see here, there's four primary methods that we use with our JSON module. And once we import this JSON module, I'll show you how to do that. In other words, make it usable for our Python program. We can then use these methods. So we'll call them the module. We'll call that JSON class dot, and then one of those methods defined within that JSON module. So these four methods are what we'll be using, and the first two here, load and loads, they will convert from a JSON file or a JSON formatted string to Python dictionaries. And the other one of these, the other two of these, is the dump or dumps methods, which convert from a Python dictionary to either a JSON file or a JSON formatted string. The way that I remember this is if load or loads or dump or dumps, if it has an S at the end, think string. So load, string, or dump, string. And if it does not have an S, then don't think string. So it'd be some file or file-like object that we're either loading from or dumping to. So these are the four methods. I did highlight prior as well that this is not JSON is not a Python construct. It's JavaScript. However, Python's very good at using it. So remember that these data types in Python are converted to JavaScript types into JSON. You don't really have to worry about that, except just note primarily that Booleans are not capitalized in JSON, whereas in Python they are. So that's probably the primary difference you have to worry about. And we'll highlight some options here. I may not get into all these very much, but I will show you in the summary text after the lecture some useful things to know about working with JSON. So let's get into our project. What I've got here is a few files. I've got a data.json file. .json is the standard way of naming these files that contain our JSON data. And I have here some JSON data. And then I've got a Python script with some comments to help us out. I've imported the JSON module. We always need to do that if we're going to use these JSON methods. So I've imported that at the top of my script. And then over here, I've got a terminal. And if we just do ls, we have two files within this folder. Our script and our JSON are located in the same folder, so it makes it easy to run. So for our project, what I want you to do is create a JSON, some JSON data similar to this that tells us a little bit about you. And by us, I just mean in general. That just would tell someone a little bit about you. So for example, I've created my name, age. I'm not a student currently. I'm married, some interests, favorite movies, contact info, languages spoken, has driver's license. So I've just picked some arbitrary information and I've filled in that about myself. I've put this in its own file, data.json. And so I'd like you to do the same and pause the video here while you fill out some information about yourself. And you can include whatever you'd like. You can include or exclude any of this information, or other information that you think is relevant. If someone were to try to get to know you, you could share this JSON file and they would have a pretty good start. So why don't you go ahead and do that? If you'd like, I'm also going to just type through a few of these, these bits of information as well to highlight a few key points about creating JSON. So first of all, let's say we're creating a new file. We want to start with our curly braces. So open curly brace, close curly brace. And then it indents automatically for us. And here we can create a key. Think Python dictionary. So we could say name, that's a key. And then colon separates our key and our value. Colon space. Joseph, it's a string, that's why it's surrounded in quotes. Comma after every element in our dictionary. Same with JSON. There's a comma at the end of every line or every data point, unless it's the last data point in its section, if you will. If it's the last data point in a list, or last data point in a dictionary, or last data point in our JSON entry. So if this were all I had in this JSON, I would not have a comma if there were only one entry, because it is in fact the last entry. But let's add a few more things. So I'll put a comma there. Age, this is another key. We've got an integer, I'm 35, at least at the time of this recording. Who knows how old I'll be when you view this video. And let's say interests, and let's make a list. So we could do a list just like this and say sports, tech, etc. But it's also a bit easier to read if we create our open square bracket and then hit enter. And we see that our closing square bracket should line up with the beginning of our variable. This is helpful for when we're creating JSON or dictionaries or lists or these longer data types. It helps it be readable. And then I'm going to tab indent there to make it readable. And here I can create my data. So let's say sports, let's say tech, and we'll leave it at that. But I'm going to put tech on its own line. There we go. That's a bit more readable. We could add more. So interests, this is its own entry. So I need a comma at the end of our interests list. Okay, now we have a new entry, a new key. We could say education. And let's make this a dictionary. I'm just trying to highlight again and walk through the process of creating data like this, because it's something that was a little bit trickier for me to grasp when I started learning about it. So I'm just trying to walk you through that process. So for creating a dictionary, let's open curly bracket. We could do it on the same line. However, for readability, let's hit enter. So then we'll tab in and start our items here. So we'll say, I'm just going to put elementary, like what was the name of my elementary school? Osmond, that was the name. So we've got our key value pair here. The name of our dictionary is education. And I know this might be a bit confusing. This is not a Python dictionary, but it will be when we bring it into Python. This is simply JSON. Let's have another variable. So I have that comma again. And we'll just say graduated. And let's make it a Boolean, true. However, since it's JSON, lowercase true. Because it's JavaScript, it's not Python. And I don't need a comma here because it's the last element in the dictionary. I also don't need a comma here at the end of our dictionary definition because this is the last item in our JSON. Or it would be the last item when we convert it into Python in our dictionary. So I just wanted to walk you through that. Now, if you haven't already, feel free to pause the video and fill out some information about yourself. You can look at this for examples, and we will be right back and continue on.